And a very warm welcome and a Céad Míle Fáilte to all those who are joining us not only from here in Ireland, but also further afield. We have a fantastic guest list from Belgium, from Poland for this evening's event, and a very distinguished guest cohort joining us, such as many of our European ambassadors here in Ireland. So a very warm welcome to them, to colleagues from the Department of Foreign Affairs, the European Commission and the European Parliament. And a very warm welcome to the Irish Embassy in Poland and the Perm Rep in Brussels, who are also here with us this evening. A very warm welcome to you all. So my role is CEO of European Movement Ireland, and for this evening's event, I'm also the moderator. So I'll be trying to keep a track on proceedings and look forward to a very lively and a lovely evening and occasion. By way of background to those of you who may not be familiar with European Movement Ireland, and I hope everyone is here considering the role that we play in terms of the College of Europe process here in Ireland, we are the longest established not-for-profit voluntary membership organisation working in the field of European affairs here in Ireland. For over 65 years, we have been working and campaigning through advocacy, communications, education and outreach to develop that connection between Ireland and Europe. And membership and getting involved is a huge part and fundamental to our work and to the mission and our objectives to what we try and do. So I'd really encourage you, if you aren't already, if you want to get involved, find out more about our membership benefits, our briefings, our webinars, and our Just the Facts, and to support our mission to connect Ireland and Europe, please do hesitate to get us involved. Have a look at europeanmovement.ie and drop us an email to info@europeanmovement.ie, and we'd love to hear from you and have you get involved, because it's through your support that enables us to work with the public here in Ireland on European issues and really to promote and strengthen Ireland's place at the heart of Europe. So in relation to the College of Europe, it's our honour here in European Movement Ireland to essentially manage all aspects of the application process for Irish students who are looking to apply to study at the college each year on behalf of the Irish government and the sponsoring department, the Department of Education. So we work with the Independent Irish National Selection Committee, some of whom I'm delighted to see are here with us this evening, and a very warm welcome to them, to their chair, Dermot Cahill, to Michael, Ruth, and previous National Selection Committee members, Jean Callan as well. Really grateful to all their work over the years in assessing and reviewing all the Irish applications. And a big part of our work and my colleagues here in European Movement Ireland, led by Lisa, is to guide applicants themselves throughout the process. And I know many applicants who are interested in applying this year are on this webinar as well. So I hope you enjoy it and I hope you get a lot of information from it. Throughout the year, a big part of our work is to promote awareness of the College of Europe here in Ireland, to offer advice and support to applicants. And to those of you who are interested in applying, the clock is ticking, not just in Brexit negotiations, but in terms of getting your application in. The 13th of January 2021 is the deadline. So you must apply through the College of Europe website. Lisa and colleagues are at hand to offer any information or assistance you may have. So go to the website, we have an FAQ there, and hopefully all your questions will be answered. So in terms of this evening's proceedings, we have a fantastic lineup of event. Some of the current students of the college, currently the Mario Suarez promotion, are in attendance as well this evening. And it's very timely that this year's cohort have been named in honour of the former Portuguese Prime Minister, who successfully negotiated and oversaw Portugal's accession to the EEC in 1986, considering the fact that Portugal will assume the presidency of the Council of the EU in a couple of short weeks in January. And indeed, another connection for us here in European Movement Ireland is that Mario Suarez was also president of our international organisation, European Movement International, from 1997 to 99. So we are very proud to call him one of our own as well. So our lineup of speakers this evening, a very distinguished lineup. But firstly, if I may, on behalf of the Minister of State for European Affairs, Thomas Byrne, who regrettably has had to send his apologies. As I'm sure this audience will appreciate, the Minister is actually in Brussels for the European Council with the Taoiseach. So it's a busy week, and unfortunately he has had to send his apologies and regrets, but wishes everyone well, and thanks everyone for their support for this evening. Our speakers and our co-hosts for this evening's event, if I can firstly turn to them, we're delighted to be virtually hosted by Ambassador Pierre-Emmanuel de Bauw and Ambassador Anna Sochańska, the Ambassador of Belgium to Ireland and the Ambassador of Poland to Ireland. Are fantastic supporters of all of us and of all the work in promoting and connecting their respective countries here in Ireland. And it's fantastic to see them facilitate and host this evening's event. They both have incredibly distinguished careers. Ambassador de Bauw has a master's in law from Leuven, and since joining the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Belgium, he has had a very impressive and varied career, holding various positions with the Belgian Ministry for Foreign Affairs and also with the Royal Palace in Brussels. And probably a warmer posting than his posting to Ireland, he was previously Ambassador of Belgium to Cuba. He has been a very distinguished Belgian ambassador to Ireland since October 2017 and is really well known to all of us here. And followed by Pierre-Emmanuel, we're delighted to have Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the Republic of Poland to Ireland, Anna Sochańska. And Ambassador Sochańska is herself an alumna from the College of Europe, where she specialized in the subject of Poland's attitudes towards European integration. And upon passing her diplomatic exam, she has been involved in European affairs ever since in the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs in a wide range of positions. As a member of the negotiating team in the Polish accession process. And since September 2019, she has been the Ambassador of Poland here in Ireland. Ambassadors, thank you very much for kindly hosting us this evening and for providing the refreshments for the lucky first attendees. The virtual floor is yours. Pierre-Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Noel. I'm delighted to be able to co-host this event with colleague Anna and the European Movement Ireland. Welcome to all. I'm really happy to welcome you in our residence here in Dublin, which is a part of Belgium, beautiful heritage building. As you know, the College of Europe is closely linked with the creation of the European movement, because it was established in Bruges in 1949 in the wake of the first Congress of the European movement. What's really unique with the Bruges and Natolin stories is that the college in its two campuses brings students from all over Europe together for a year to study European affairs. And the College of Europe was the first of its kind when it was created more than 70 years ago. 70 years, that's long enough to have generations of specialists in European affairs, passionate in the European project, who graduated from Bruges and from Natolin. It is also very, very close to the heart of us Belgians. Why? Of course, it's in Bruges, but we also, you will remember that former chief of staff to the president of the, former president of the European Council, Herman van Rompuy, is now the president of the Administrative Council of the College of Europe. And of course, for those students who are now in Bruges or who've been there, you all know that when you study in Belgium, you also embrace the Belgian art de vivre. And that's why I'm very happy to share a good Belgian beer with you. It's really important because it's those informal settings that make it even more possible for all of us to engage with each other and to make the necessary connections we need to really support and strengthen our European project. Now, it is also a very good timing now to engage even more Irish students in the College of Europe. Why is that? Well, Ireland has been a member of the European Union since 1973. There's a big difference between what Ireland and the EU were at the time and where we're at now. And we see Ireland now taking more and more its full role within the EU, being fully engaged. And we believe in Belgium that Ireland's voice in Europe needs to be heard. It's a pro-European voice. It's an interesting voice. Ireland is not a peripheral country in Europe. To the contrary, Ireland decisively chose to be at the very center of the European project. And that's why I'm so happy that we can organize this event with European Movement Ireland. A wonderful point for the College of Europe is to have campuses in Belgium and in Poland, and this way uniting, connecting all the parts of Europe together. And that's actually very important. And these connections are what really matter. We are in a different context now with Brexit, where we see a member state sadly leaving our union. Well, let me tell you a story related to the College of Europe in Bruges. 32 years ago, on the 9th of September 1988, then Prime Minister of Britain, Margaret Thatcher, gave a famous speech in Bruges, in the College of Europe, the Bruges speech. And actually it was a response to a speech by then President of the European Commission, Jacques Delors, who actually wanted to push the Union towards a more socially and politically integrated Union. And that's what precisely Mrs. Thatcher did not want. So her speech in Bruges was famous for actually refusing a more social union. And actually, if I'm not wrong, there was a headline in Financial Times in 2018 saying how Thatcher's Bruges speech put Britain on the road to Brexit. So you see the connection. Well, we don't want this to happen again, of course. We think that Bruges and Natolin are places where we can discuss our European project or common project. Of course, there are different meanings. Of course, there are different directions the one and the other want to take. But we strongly believe that knowing what we are talking about by studying it in Bruges and Natolin, in other institutions, and discussing it reasonably and listening to other points of view is what makes our project great and what makes a further integration possible. So I really engage those of you who think of applying to the College of Europe to do so. Will listen to my colleague Anna's testimony, because she studied there with a great deal of interest, and also to Irene's story. But really, I would strongly engage you to register to the College of Europe and to enjoy the good way of life in Belgium. Thank you very much.
Should I start now?
Yes, Anna. Yes, please.
Good evening. I'm really delighted to be here with you tonight. And it's not just a courtesy, because for me, it's not one of many meetings that I attend, but it's the meeting. Because as Noel mentioned, I'm a graduate from the College of Europe. And I'm a lucky person because actually I studied both in Bruges and Natolin. And I will tell you the story in a minute. But first of all, I would like to thank very much Noel European Movement and Pierre-Emmanuel, my dear colleague and neighbor, for inviting me to this event. Well, I was just thinking what I could tell you about the College of Europe, and I realized that the best way of telling you this story would be not the story of the ambassador of Poland to Ireland, but the story of Anna, a girl from Poland who once wanted to study in the college. For some of you, my story will be the story from the Middle Ages, because I'm going back to 1992. Some of you probably were not born yet. But for me, this is a very important year, because it was, when you recall the history of the political and economic transformation in Central and Eastern Europe, it was just 3 years after the collapse of the communism, and the first non-communist prime minister in that part of Poland, in that part of Europe. Very interesting time. And in 1992, I was in a group of first young people from Poland who had a chance to have a stage in the European Commission. And for me, it was a fantastic experience. But also, you know, when I spent such a long time in Brussels, because it was a long stage, it was like 6 months, I wanted to discover Belgium. And together with one of my colleagues, we were hitchhiking and trying to find the most interesting tourist attractions in Belgium, which was not so difficult. And on the top of our list was, of course, Bruges. And I have to tell you that it was the love from the first sight. I love this city, and with its medieval history, with fantastic architecture, the city of culture. And I also remember the moment when I was walking along the canal and I noticed a building with a plaque, College of Europe. I didn't know at that time what it was, but my friend, he was very well informed, and he told me, you know, this is the most important, the most famous college in Europe. It's a cradle of the European fonctionnaire. I only thought that I would love to study in such a place, but I quickly forgot about it, because at that time it was not so obvious that somebody from a non-EU country could start his or her studies in such a place. When I completed my internship in the European Commission, I went back to Poland and decided that I would like to work in the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. As you can imagine, when somebody is going to pass the exam to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he or she has to study a lot, read many books and newspapers, etc. That was what I was doing. And one day I found the advertisement in the Polish press that the recruitment of students to the College of Europe has just started. And it referred to the branch of the College of Europe in Warsaw. I was shocked, because I didn't even know that there was a branch in Warsaw. But I immediately decided that I would submit my application. And I was accepted. I was also accepted to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but I informed the ministry that I will be back in a year, because I have to study in Bruges, actually in Natolin, because at that time I thought I would start my studies in Warsaw. 2 weeks before the start of the academic year, I received a letter. I couldn't collect it. I only found the information in my mailbox that since I couldn't collect it, I could call the post office and ask somebody to read it out for me. so I did it. I called a lady at the post office, and she read the following message to me. As the Polish government and the authorities of the College of Europe did not complete the negotiations on the functioning of the branch of the college in Warsaw, are you ready to start your academic year in Bruges? And when I was digesting this information, I heard the voice of this lady from the post office. I would go for that. So, of course, we started to laugh, and the decision was taken, and I studied. I went to Bruges, and I would say my journey has started. Journey with Stefan Zweig promotion. I could say that it was the time of my life. I think that it was a fantastic and unforgettable time. For many of us, for the students then from non-EU countries, it was a chance to study things that we were not taught in our countries, about the European Commission, about the European Parliament, about law, economy, history of European integration. For our colleagues from the EU countries, it was also very interesting, because they had a chance to meet the people who had completely different experience, who they had a chance to talk to us about I know this terrible experience of living on the wrong side of the Iron Curtain. To talk about our ambitions, dreams, and it was really fantastic. But what was for me the most valuable was the fact that there were no division lines in any sense. We were just one big fantastic family, and we studied together. We enjoyed social life together. For us, it was a time for new challenges. I would say that, for example, in my case, I met, for example, for the first time, somebody from Albania or from Iceland. It was a place where I started to study Spanish or even Flemish, later without particular success, but still, you know, it was quite an interesting experience. I think the college gave me strength and self-confidence, and it taught me to be open-minded and curious, and also determined in pursuing my goals. You might think that it's a kind of idealistic picture that I'm describing now, but it is not. And you can ask anyone who studied in the College of Europe. I'm sure many people will repeat what I'm saying to you now. For example, people from my promotion, we keep in touch. Last year we celebrated 25th anniversary, and so many people met in Brussels, and we had such a fantastic time. Even now, if I'm not mistaken, my dear friend Rachel McGowan is here with us, and we studied together in Bruges. If I may, just a few words about Natolin. In the end, the agreement between the Polish government and the College of Europe was signed, and we were sent to Natolin at the very end of our academic year. I think we spent there like 2 months. We enjoyed it very much, even though for us it was a bit difficult because it was an experimental year. And as we started in Bruges, we had many friends. We left many friends kind of behind, and we were only like, I don't remember, 30 or 40 students in Natolin. The branch in Natolin is very beautiful, and it is located in the southern. In fact, Natolin is the name of a suburb of Warsaw. but the campus is located in a natural park with very beautiful modern campus. These days much more extended than back in the 90s, and the complex once belonged to one of the most prominent Polish aristocratic families. So in the heart of the campus, you will find a palace, but also stables that they were transformed into the lecture rooms. From my perspective, of course, apart from that, apart from all necessary sport facilities, from my perspective, the most valuable aspect of that is that closeness to nature. You literally live in the park with deer and foxes as neighbors. But for those who like big city attractions, don't worry, you have a tube station close to the campus that is going directly to the city center. And believe me, Warsaw is a very beautiful and very lively city, and you will not feel bored. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anna, for that fantastic speech, and Pierre-Emmanuel as well, and to prove to everyone on the call that our system for comments and chats is working. Rachel McGowan, Ambassador, has said she is indeed online, and a beautiful speech by you, dear Anna. You capture very eloquently the essence of our fantastic experience in the College of Europe. So that's a fantastic way for me to segue into our very distinguished guest of honor tonight, and our keynote speaker, to whom it's an absolute honor to have with us. And we're delighted to welcome her as our guest of honor and our keynote speaker, the current rector of the College of Europe, Federica Mogherini, joining us from Bruges, I believe, Rector. Federica Mogherini has been the rector of the college since September 2020, and she also co-chairs the United Nations High-Level Panel on Internal Displacement since January of this year. To an audience such as this, she certainly needs no introduction, but it's fair to say Ms. Mogherini has had an incredibly distinguished career. She has previously served as the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission from 2014 to 2019. Prior to joining and assuming that position, she was Italian Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, a member of the Italian Chamber of Deputies, and in her parliamentary capacity was head of the Italian delegation to the NATO Parliamentary Assembly and Vice President of its political committee. She has had a very distinguished career and continues to do so, and it is all of our honour to hand over the virtual baton to the current rector of the College of Europe, Federica Mogherini. Rector, thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, thank you for organizing this amazing gathering. Thank you for the hospitality. Thank you for the invitation. And it's the only regret is that we have to do it virtually, and we cannot enjoy a physical presence altogether. And also as the ambassador mentioned, the Belgian way of life with a good glass of beer and a little bit of chat after our working time. I'm really glad to join you, and I'm really grateful for your invitation. I am also very glad that I'm speaking after the two ambassadors that have so eloquently and perfectly described not only the life in the college, but also the two campuses we have. And this leaves me free to, well, strengthen the message you referred to, Noel, in the beginning. Apply if you're interested in getting to know better the European Union from the inside, from the outside, and also to shaping that. being it from the outside or from the inside, the College of Europe is the right place to be. I'll come back to that in a moment, and maybe follow the example of Anna, if I may. Among us, we can call each other by our name, and tell you my story. I have not studied in the College of Europe. I've not studied in Bruges or in Natolin. I couldn't have time to study in Natolin. At that time, the campus was not open yet, but I've had a lot of questions when I started as director at the college. And many friends and colleagues, former colleagues, people I know asked me, why is it so that you're moving from the European institutions to the College of Europe? It's a different word, it's a completely different word, it's a completely different universe, you're not an academic. Are you sure you're making the right step? And some of them maybe even were referring somehow to the fact that maybe this was a place for me to be temporarily, as long as I'm waiting for something else to pop up. And I was trying to explain to all these friends and colleagues at that time, but not the ones that know me better. The ones that know me better knew already that I was making the right choice. And I'm sharing this with you tonight of why I am at the College of Europe. A little bit as Anna shared the experience about why she joined the College of Europe at that time. And the reason for me is that this is the perfect place to build the European Union integration project from a different angle. This is somehow what I've dedicated a big part of my life to. I've always worked on foreign policy and security and defense policy issues, and this has always been my focus. It's true, I've had a political career, but I've always worked since the age of 16 in high school on global issues, foreign affairs policy. This has always been my passion, the world, and the European integration project. The feeling of belonging not only to my city and my country, but also to Europe. And to me, there's layers of identity. I've always been a natural element of complexity. And I think it's always a false dilemma when you're asked, do you feel more an Italian or a European or a Polish or a European? You feel, it's like asking, do you feel more love for one child or another? I mean, you have different elements of your identity and they live together in you, completing one each other. And I always felt this very strong identity as a European generation. I am part of the famous Erasmus generation. While I was studying at university in Rome, I had 9 months of studies in Aix-en-Provence to do my thesis with an Erasmus project. And I always felt it was natural for me to be European. And then in my years in Brussels, in the European institutions, my main focus was obviously foreign policy and defense, but also building and strengthening and showing that the European Union as one has a global role to play and has a voice to be heard, and has also responsibility on the global stage. So for me, when I finished that experience exactly 1 year ago, it was more than natural, well, first of all, to take a break, and then to accept an invitation that I received at that time, 1 year ago, to join the College of Europe to teach a course in the International Relations Department of in Bruges to students. I had 25 students last year on how the European Union positions itself and interacts in the geopolitical new context. And to me, that experience was somehow a life-changing experience. You have shared, Anna, your how the college has changed your life starting there. For me, it has been the same teaching there. During those months and in between those months, then we had also the pandemic. So we turned from the presence to the online, all the difficulties of the case. But for me, that experience, after coming out of an experience that was obviously one of the most amazing and rewarding ones, I was feeling, you know, I've done everything I could, and now I can, you know, just relax. And yet, meeting those students, exchanging with them, sharing with them my experience, interacting with them, being challenged by them, was somehow a new energy. And I immediately realized that this was what I really wanted to do, that there was another angle to building the European Union integration process. There's one through the institutions, and there's one through exchanging and building somehow the leaderships of the European Union of tomorrow. It seems rhetoric, but it's really the case. We have today at the college the record number of students ever enrolled in a promotion. That has been a surprise because in a COVID year, we were expecting less applications. We have the record number, and we have the record number of nationalities. This to say that this is the place to be if you want not only to study and understand the theory and the practice of the European Union functioning, being it in the political sphere, in the economic sphere, in the juridical one, on diplomacy and international relations, and with the very interdisciplinary approach that we cover both in Bruges and in Natolin. But most of all, I would say that that is the place to be if you want to have a variety of points of reference and sources. I think the unique nature of the college is this: not only the living together, not only the enjoying the building of the network, not only the beers. In this moment, we're trying to explain to our students that the beer aspect should be limited as long as we have COVID restrictions, at least in terms of number of people sharing them. But still, the social element remains because our students in Natolin live together in this beautiful campus that I can confirm is a paradise. And in Bruges, they live together in residences. We have 7 residences inside the city, beautiful buildings as well, but integrated in the city center. And they live together and they share, even respecting fully the COVID restrictions and measures, but they live together, developing the sense of community that then stays forever. You're not only colleagues, you're not only fellow students, you become family. During those 10 months, you become family. And then those links stay forever. So that is the place, yes, to enjoy, to create the network, a network that then becomes also a network that will be useful for your life. Many couples and many children are born out of the college experience. My neighbors here are a couple. One, he studied in Bruges, she studied in Natolin, then they have a 3-year-old kid. It's beautiful. It's also the place where you have connections and networks that then will be useful for your professional career afterwards, because you will always find an alumni, an ancien, in the ministry in another country, being it in Europe or outside of Europe, in the council, in the commission, in the external action service, in the parliament, in the committee of regions, in one of the main lobbies present in town, in media outlets, in the UN system, you name it, in a law firm. You will always find a connection, an entry point through the network of the alumni to whatever you will need in life. And then you keep the friendship. This is something I see because in my years in the institutions, both in the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and in the European Union institutions, most of the people I've been working with, my team, my colleagues, my friends, have been alumni of the college. So I've not studied at the college, but I've worked with so many people that have been studying at the college. And again, as I said, it's not only the place to be to make friends, create connections, create networks for life, professional and private life, but also it's the place to be to understand deeply the functioning of the European Union in different aspects, and with a peculiar aspect that is this mix that only the College of Europe has of academic and practitioners. This to me has been really the extraordinary added value that I've seen in the learning experience in the college. Again, last year I had a course with the students. I supervised 6 theses at the end of my course, extremely interesting. Every one of them I would have kept talking about them with the students forever. I learned also a lot from them. This close interaction you have between the students and the professors. We have in total 350 students this year in Bruges and 130 in Natolin. And in total, we have something like 300 professors. So you understand that the ratio between professors and students is so intense that you have this unique closeness to the professors. And the professors are at the same time very high-level academic figures, but also very high-level practitioners. And so the students, I think this is really unique in the landscape of higher education institutions. The students can get the same kind of information, or rather, very different kind of informations and backgrounds on the same topic, and can get different viewpoints, the academic one and the practitioners one. And sometimes when I was teaching to my students some aspects of the functioning, for instance, of the Council in Foreign Affairs or Defense, they were telling me that this doesn't coincide with what Professor X told us yesterday. And this exposure to a plurality of visions and angles, nationalities, backgrounds, languages. By the way, you have this bilingual French and English regime that I think is extremely important nowadays than to have an access to the European institutions. I know it might be difficult sometimes for some countries where French is not so much studied, but if you want to project yourself in a European career, French is essential, and we help also with the language skills in this. So that is the place where you can really understand not only the theory of how the European Union integration works, but also the practical elements of how it is in reality, what works, what doesn't work, what is the practical functioning of the institution, something that ambassadors now know very well, but maybe students of 20, 25, 30 years old don't have that clear in mind. And I have seen from inside the institutions how valuable it is to have officials in national institutions or European institutions, or also in civil society organizations or media outlets that understand not only the theory, but also the practical aspects of it. Because this is what gives you the sense of what you can do, how you can achieve results in practical terms. And this is sometimes what makes really the difference between a good official and a theoretically good official that then still needs to find his way or her way through the difficult channels of practice. The other elements I would add, and then I stop, is the real reason why I'm there is this. First, because I enjoyed enormously the interaction with students. The real reason why I'm there is the students. I always tell the professors or the staff, don't get offended, but the real reason why I'm here is the energy that the students bring, and this challenging, dynamic exchange we always constantly have with so many nationalities and backgrounds, and including academic backgrounds. You don't have to be a lawyer or a political scientist to be in the college. This year we even have a civilian pilot that is at the college because he was interested in developing his knowledge about the European Union and aviation, which is perfectly fine, and probably will write a very interesting thesis at the end of his course. But this to say, you have a variety and diversity of backgrounds in all levels, in staff, in professors, in students. But the real reason, apart from enjoying this dynamic environment and this multicultural environment, is the fact that, and here I turn to maybe the more serious part of it, I have seen the institutions from within, and I've worked probably again in the most exciting environments one could imagine. But still, if we don't build the European Union citizenship from the very first stages, the future of our European integration projects will always be uphill. And to me, the most important mission today is the mission of the college. And I see the college as somehow a European institution in this respect, that, as the ambassador mentioned, was built actually just in the same years, actually a little bit before the European institution started, more than 70 years ago. This is for me an investment in building the younger generation's European citizenship and awareness and ownership, both of young citizens of the European Union member states, but also of younger generations outside of the European Union. Because I think that this is also a key issue. One, we might have third countries that one day might want to become member states. I think of the Balkans. We might have important investments to make in the future leaders or future officials of third countries. I think of the United States, but also of China, Africa, Asia, Latin America, Russia. That might be useful for us Europeans to have on the other side interlocutors that understand how we work and why. Having qualified officials in other countries also that know the European Union and the reasoning of the European Union well would make the work of the institutions afterwards much easier, I think, and much more constructive, preventing misunderstandings and misinterpretations in negotiations or even sometimes in conflict or crisis situations. So this element of letting the rest of the world understand why we are a union and what is the added value of being so, even sharing the inspirational side of it, and also at the same time allowing the younger generations of the European Union to shape the European Union itself. There is clearly a democratic deficit perceived, at least in our population in Europe. And I think that giving the instruments to younger generations to not only learn and understand about how it functions today, but also to have the instruments to shape it tomorrow. And tomorrow is not in 10 years, it might be literally in 6 months. Contribute to shaping the European Union as they think of it, as they dream of it. Somehow, this is what I told to our students at the beginning of this academic year, which is a special, difficult year for logistic reasons, and also for psychological reasons, if I can say so, is that we are trying and we are aspiring to give them the tools to turn their aspirations for the European integration project into something possible to get real. If you have an idea in mind, don't hide it. Don't think that as it doesn't work like this today, it shouldn't work like this tomorrow. If you have a good idea, study hard to get the instruments that would allow you in the future to make that idea reality. And I think this is what we are trying to do at the college, giving knowledge, understanding, instruments to decode somehow how the European institutions work, but also how our European societies work. And then also at the same time, giving and providing our students the instruments to be able to at least try to change the reality of Europe tomorrow. I'm sorry, I thought I would have spoken for much less than that, but as you see, I'm very passionate about that. I can prove all my former colleagues or friends wrong. I'm after 3-4 months at the college, and even with that kind of start, because COVID is not making our lives particularly easy, I'm more enthusiastic than when I started, and I'm so much looking forward to working together with the college family, both in Natolin and in Bruges, for the next 5 years of my mandate at least, and potentially 10 if I would then go for a second mandate. But this is the place to be, and this is an exciting and amazing experience to share. So I hope to see many of you in person, being it in Bruges or in Natolin, hopefully very soon.
Thank you very much, Rector. What a fantastic keynote address, and your passion and enthusiasm and commitment certainly shone through. And we too would love to visit in Bruges and Natolin, and hopefully, you never know, we'd love to welcome you to Dublin. I think your predecessor was kindly hosted by Pierre-Emmanuel, if I recall correctly, in his residence in Belgium. Was it last year, maybe the year before? So hopefully we'll have you back in Ireland in the not too distant future. And I really loved some of your remarks in terms of shaping the European Union of the future tomorrow, which is just you know, so important, and the different units of identity as a European. I too am an Erasmus generation, so it wasn't too far away from you in Lyon. So yes, and so fantastic. And thank you so much for your time and your fantastic remarks. I'm delighted now to follow on from the Rector. Our next speaker this evening is Cormac, who is the chair of the Irish branch of the College of Europe Alumni Association. And following Cormac, delighted to have Irene Fuentes McDonnell, an Irish student currently studying at the College of Europe in the Natolin campus. So Cormac is chair of the Irish Alumni Association and was himself a student at the Bruges campus, graduating with a Master's in European Law. And he's now a senior counsel and partner and head of William Fry's Competition and Regulation Department. Cormac, in his role as chair, will tell you a little bit about what's involved in the Irish Alumni Association. If any of you would like to get involved or connect with it itself, please do get in touch with Lisa on the chat box, and she can share Cormac's contact details for those of you who'd like to follow up with him for more information. And then delighted, after Cormac, Irene will give a couple of remarks. She's currently a master's candidate in European interdisciplinary studies in Natolin, where she is focusing on EU-Russian relations. And she really bears out Federica's multilingualism rule, because I'm incredibly impressed, Irene. She speaks Russian, French and Spanish fluently. So I think she's putting many of us to shame on that. So fantastic to welcome both Cormac and Irene. And Cormac, I might hand over to you first.
Thank you, Noelle. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, cher Monsieur l'Ambassadeur, cher Madame l'Ambassadrice, cher Rector, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'd like to welcome you all here this evening on behalf of the Alumni Association. As the Rector mentioned, it's a shame that we can't do it physically, but hopefully there's good news, as we all know, on the vaccine front. So hopefully the next time we meet, it'll be face to face. I'm just going to say a few short words. For those of you who've attended previous social events, there'll be some common themes will emerge. Listening to the Rector brought back some very, very happy memories of my time in Bruges. And I certainly can endorse what she said when she talked about the college providing an excellent network and resource for your professional career. That has undoubtedly been the situation in my case. So I'd especially like to thank the ambassadors Bauw and Sochańska for the beer and the chocolate, and also thanks to Noelle and Lisa and the team at the European Movement Ireland for all the organisation. Ambassadors, I'm hoping that you did not exhaust the supplies of beer and chocolate, because I think they may be needed at a certain dinner in the Berlaymont this evening if a deal is to emerge. So hopefully they might be served by President van der Leyen to Prime Minister Johnson later on this evening. Anyway, just a quick word about the Alumni Association, the Irish branch. It's open to all graduates of Bruges or Natolin, North and South, and also to any Bruges Natolin graduates who happen to be living or resident in Ireland. So Ambassador Sochańska, as an alumnus, as an ancienne, is of course a member herself. The association is fairly light touch. We've no clubhouse. We don't charge membership fees. We don't intend to charge membership fees. Up to now, it has been almost entirely social, organising events where people can get together and network and enjoy a drink. We've also done a little bit of work in terms of promoting scholarships, not so much raising money ourselves, but in giving the relevant details, passing them on to alumni, acting as, if you like, a conduit between the college and alumni who may or may not wish to contribute in terms of scholarships. The Belgian embassy in particular has been very good to us over the years. I don't know whether he's on the call or not, but I'd like to thank my predecessor, John Coyle, who held the baton as chair for many years before deftly passing it on to yours truly. Now, it's a theme that the Rector mentioned in her talk, but also applies to the Alumni Association. When I say that just because things were done a certain way in the past, it doesn't mean that they need to be done in the same way in the future. As I mentioned, the purpose of the Irish branch of the Alumni Association up to now has been almost entirely social. But of course, we're a creature of members. So I'm very much open to ideas as to whether the organisation should continue as a purely social vehicle, or whether we should delve into the area of organising more academic or policy events. I know this is a crowded space in Ireland because it's a small country, And we've lots of other institutions playing in that space, be they the European Movement Ireland itself, or the Institute of European International Affairs, or the ESRI, Irish Society for European Law, etc. But look, I'm just putting it out there. We can continue as we've been doing up to now, or we can branch out into new areas. So I suppose I'll finish up by saying that I have two asks, one of which I already made in an email last week. I have a database with about 140 or 150 alumni. I know that is well shy of Irish people that have passed through Bruges and Natolin over the years. It's difficult to track down lost sheep. So some of you have been very good up to now in looking through the list of addressees and pointing out people in their promotion. Of course, it's a problem for Bruges and Natolin in the sense that we're only there for a year. So you tend not to know the people in the year ahead of you or the year behind you, like you would in normal quote unquote universities. But anyway, if you can please look through the list, and if there's anybody who's missing that you know from your promotion or otherwise, would you please send an email to them, copy me so I can update the database. And then secondly, this flows on from what I'm saying in terms of what we want the association to do in years to come. The committee tends to be just me at the moment, but I would be delighted if others would get involved. So to the extent that you're willing to get involved, and I'm particularly looking for people that graduated in the noughties and in the tens and more recently, if you were to drop me an email, and we'll organise probably a Zoom call early in the new year to discuss ideas for 2021. So without further ado, I'd like to thank you all for coming. Again, thanks to the organisers. We're delighted that the ambassador spoke. Wonderful speech from the rector, delighted that she could be with us. And of course, we'd be delighted to see her in person in the not too distant future. And I'll hand you over now to the next speaker.
Hello, good evening. My name is Irene Fuentes McDonnell. I'd like to firstly thank you very much for this invitation. I'm really honored to speak next to such a distinguished panel. Dobry wieczór to Ambassador Sochańska and Ambassador Bauw, Mr. Cormac and of course, Rector Federica Mogherini. It's an honor to speak with you today. And I think I was struck listening to your speeches, how your experience in Natolin and Bruges is quite similar to the experiences that we're having here now. Even though we have a pandemic that we probably could have never imagined could happen. The experience is still being very genuine. We're here on campus. We're particularly lucky in Natolin, as was mentioned, that we were living in the forest and kind of separated from the rest of the world almost, which is great in the case of a pandemic. So we're able to live life fairly normally here, and the all-important social life is being kept well alive. I suppose I kind of wanted to stress that it is, if in the case that people are going to study here next year, and if unfortunately things don't change too much in terms of COVID, it is definitely possible to have a great experience here, both personally and academically. The hybrid system that they're using now, where sometimes lecturers will come to us and sometimes we watch the lectures on Zoom, is actually working out really nicely. So it's proving really engaging and surprisingly so. So that it's definitely quite a positive side of this and a surprise. So I suppose another thing I wanted to talk about was, as Ambassador Sochańska and Rector Federica Mogherini said, it is really the multicultural and multilingual experience in Natolin and in Bruges as well that is quite special. I think it's something that we're starting to take a little bit for granted. We're getting used to it, but it is sometimes, you catch yourself in the canteen, one minute you're speaking in English to someone, next it's French, and somebody behind you speaking Portuguese, and you're just surrounded by it all the time. And it is true how the idea of your European citizenship does kind of develop, and I think that's why a lot of us came. And I think there's a lot of mentions of the Erasmus generation. I suppose even my generation, we're not just the Erasmus generation, but there's a lot of us who are half, we're multicultural in ourselves, so I'm half Spanish, half Irish, and most people here are actually mixed. And that's been something really, really special, because it almost doubles the amount of cultures here, and the conversations that we have end up being really interesting. And then when it comes to speaking to the many students that we have who are not from the EU, that also kind of contributes to the feelings of being European, as especially so most of the time I spend my time here with people from Ukraine and Georgia and the Eastern neighborhood, and it's been really enlightening to learn about what Europe looks like from the margins, I suppose, and what it is that they kind of aspire to join maybe one day, or to also develop in their own countries. So yeah, they've been kind of the highlights of the experience so far. I mean, I suppose maybe some people who are hoping to study here might be wondering about things like perhaps the study trips. And I can say that they are still possible in a pandemic. Poland is a very, very rich place culturally and geographically, so we've been able to get to know Poland very intimately. And yes, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has about the experience of studying in Natolin. And yes, I look forward to being part of the alumnus network, and to getting to know you all in person once the pandemic blows over. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Irene, you painted a fantastic picture there, and wishing you continued success in your studies, and really appreciate your offer to act as a mentor, I suppose, really to those who are coming along behind you, which is fantastic to see and hear, and very much appreciated. So now I think it's fair to say we're getting fantastic questions in. So I'm really earning my I'm going to be earning my Belgian beer from Pierre-Emmanuel for the next while. So lots of questions coming in. And if I can firstly just perhaps start by saying we're delighted to be joined by Stephen Ryan from the Department of Foreign Affairs, who, with all credit to the department, are fantastic supporters of the wider College of Europe process, and the supporting the alumni network, and to our own work. And the Department of Foreign Affairs are currently in the process of doing an EU jobs initiative. So many of those of you who are alumni on the call, or those of you who are interested in applying, DFA will be publishing, along with Minister Byrne, the results of their EU jobs initiative and submission. So I'd encourage you all, if you haven't already, to make sure that you're following the Department of Foreign Affairs across the various social media platforms, and to keep in touch with any of their EU jobs updates. Cormac's email, my colleague Lisa has very helpfully, I think, put his email address in the chat box. So if any of you are interested in getting involved in the association, you have Cormac's details there after his great address and his impassioned call to arms, which is fantastic. Now, if I can turn to maybe some of the questions, so a very nice mix of them there. And if the rest of the speakers are okay, Rector, I might go to you first. So there's a couple of questions, and I might just ask you to perhaps take them in a block, if that's okay, so that we don't mute and unmute all of ourselves and cause technological complications. So Rachel McGowan has asked a great question on, and I'd be interested in your thoughts, Federica, on this from a College of Europe Bruges hat. How can we optimize and maximize in a practical way on our European identity in a post-Brexit reality? And what is the role of government, of media, of civil society organizations in that process? So that's the first question, if I may. And then an interesting question from, I think, one of former anciens, who Polo Deer has asked. He's interested in asking you, Federica, how do you see amongst the college student body are opposing views on the EU sincerely held? Is it composed solely of Europhiles? And do you look to embrace a diversity of views and perspectives? Are Eurosceptics welcome in the college as well? So I might get you to deal with maybe those two questions, Federica, if I may first. Thank you.
Yes, with pleasure. First of all, I'll maybe answer the second one. Everybody's welcome at the college. Diversity is in our DNA, as it is in the DNA of the European Union. So for sure, and for sure, students at the college, being that in Bruges or in Natolin, have a diversity of points of view about the European Union, its integration process, its functioning, what should be changed or improved, or I wouldn't say that probably we have students that think that the European Union should be destroyed completely. That is a serious point. The College of Europe is not just an educational institution. I want to make this clear. The College of Europe has in its statutes the definition of its mission. And this is why I refer to it somehow as a kind of European Union institution, because it's stated in the very first articles of the statute of the college that the mission of the college is contributing to the integration project of the European continent. So everybody's welcome at the college, but everybody should know that the mission you're joining is the mission of contributing to the integration of Europe. Then you can find your own way of doing that, but this is our common mission and this is our common identity. So you're not just coming to study, you're also coming to contribute to that integration process in your own way, in the full respect of any political opinion, obviously, and any cultural approach. Then Brexit. I would not comment on Brexit as such. I was lucky enough to serve the European Union in the time when we were still 28, and by the way, not having a single problem with any of the foreign policy or defense policy issues when we were still at 28, and by unanimity. So I can't complain. And so I have a sort of standard answer to that. Every time I was asked about Brexit, I was saying I will answer about Brexit the day when it will be a third country. And then I was out of office before, so it's perfect. But I can just share with you a couple of thoughts. One is a simple fact, is an observation, is a practical thing. This year we have more students from the UK than in any other year before. And I think this is somehow an indication of the fact that, well, on one side, it can be an indication of the fact that some of the UK students think that there will be a lot of knowledge needed to deal with the European Union from the UK. So it's probably a smart career investment from their side. But many others come, and I've talked with them a lot because I spend a lot of time talking with the students, and I asked for their motivation, and many of them are in the college and wanted to come to the college to contribute to imagining a future maybe within the European Union sometime. Or, well, many are from Scotland, many are from Wales, many are from England, or from Northern Ireland. So there's an interest that is growing there. So I would say to be continued somehow. These next generations, I don't think have closed the chapter. Let's put it this way. And the other element I would say is this. I think that the whole story of Brexit, and then we'll see how it goes in these days, in these hours and days. We all hope for a good outcome, but also prepare for a bad one. I think that has indicated and has somehow taught to all of us what you risk to lose if you go too far. I think that many in Europe might have thought that the UK referendum would have been maybe the beginning of the end for the European Union, with many other referenda to come. And I think it is not by coincidence that there were not any referenda following that one, simply because one thing is to, I would say, use for electoral purposes or for political arguments an anti-European discourse. But then it's a completely different thing to really bring your country out of the Union. And I think that once other countries have seen what this means, I think they will think not twice, but 3 or 4, 10 times or 10,000 times before they really go that way. So I think that this can be somehow for us all collectively a reminder of what there is to lose. If you allow me to quote, I think it's a British singer, The Passenger. You only miss your house when you're you only miss the road when I'll get it in a moment. Anyway, you miss what you're not having anymore, what you're losing. You miss the sun when it's getting cold. I think we all realized what's at stake and what there is to lose. So we can criticize everything. We can even talk about destroying everything, but then doing it is a different story.
Very, very well said. I think it's fair to say, and I'll match your quote if I may. I think with the Brexit negotiations, I think Lennon had a good point when he said there are decades when nothing happens and there are weeks when decades happen. And with Brexit, we're into minutes with who knows what's happening, but very, very well answered, Rector. Thank you very much for that. If I may now, we just have another question for you, actually, if I may, from a very distinguished ancienne, Regina O'Connor, Rector, and apologies to be putting you on the spot again, but I think this is a great question. So I shamelessly, as the moderator, want to hear your answer to this as well. What would you consider to be your greatest highlight or your greatest achievement or your most treasured memory in your EU foreign policy role? That's a nice question.
A great question. I got the quote right in the meantime. You only miss the sun when it starts to snow, which is appropriate with the weather we have today, at least in Belgium. I would say, if I can say two. One is well, it's the obvious one. It's a moment. It's the moment of my mandate. I think when we achieved the agreement on the Iran nuclear deal, that night will stay in my memories forever. And I think it was an exemplary moment where the European Union role as not only a mediator, but a facilitator of an agreement. And also, not everybody knows that, but it was the European Union team that literally wrote the entirety of the agreement technically, with all the nuclear clauses, all the sanctions related clauses. This to say, we have excellent officials sometimes behind the scenes, and by the way, most of them women, and just with a 10 people team managed to produce that solid and impressive, even technically, agreement. So that was for me the moment in time, the moment I will always keep in my heart, and also because it was coming after a long lockdown. Somehow, because we were spending 3 weeks without getting out of the building consecutively, all of us. And then, if I can say, the biggest achievement probably for me has been the work on defense. It's not so much under the spotlight, but as you said, it was a few, not a week, but a few months, a couple of years, where decades condensated somehow. Because the work on European defense had been mentioned and prepared for decades and never succeeded to happen. And in 2016, 2017, we managed to do more in 2 years about European defense than in all previous decades put together. And that was for me really, really a good achievement, a solid achievement that I think will be continued and will be built upon. I was very proud of that. It was a teamwork, but also with all the member states, foreign ministers, defense ministers, the militaries involved, NATO accompanying and helping us in doing that. It was really a good and excellent, for me, the best part of our work.
Fantastic, and so say all of us. And who would have known, Federica, that the Iran nuclear deal and the 3 weeks lockdown would have actually been COVID preparation, perhaps. in terms of the lockdown. Fantastic. We're still getting loads of questions coming in, which is brilliant. If I may, a question here, let me just, yes, from an applicant, which I think is fantastic, and delighted to put this question, if I may, to Professor Dermot Cahill, our very distinguished and very long-serving and hardworking chair of the Irish National Selection Committee. So if we can make the technology work, Dermot, I might try and put this one to you. But one of the applicants has asked, how technical is the interview for the College of Europe, and how would you advise that applicants prepare for it? So Dermot, if it works.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Noelle. And can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfect. Thank
Great.
you.
Okay, so just very quickly, good evening, Rector, Excellencies on CN and potential applicants. I'm delighted to see so many of you here this evening. So I'm going to give you very quick advice about the interview. The question was, how technical is the interview? Well, here's my answer. The interview typically lasts around 20 minutes. So you need to be on top of your game. You will be asked questions by each member of the panel. Typically, there's maybe between 5 and 7 members, a combination of Irish members and also professors from the Bruges and Natolin campuses. They will have lots of questions to ask you. So you need to be on your game. You need to give succinct answers. And one of the things that the panel is looking for, because it's very competitive, but everybody is in with a chance if you're well prepared. One of the things we're looking for is, what is your motivation for studying at the college? So you need to think about it. So when you're filling out the application form, this is feedback now that I can give everybody. And that is that we've noticed that often students don't pay much attention to the section of the form that says, why do you want to study at the college? That's your opportunity to start laying out your motivation. College. And to give you a tip, many of you will have done Erasmus in European universities. You can tell us about that, and we can ask you about it at the interview maybe. But really, we want to hear about the future. What's your motivation? Why do you want to go to the college? And how will that help your future? How will it contribute to your future? What's your motivation? Why do you want to study there? What do you want to study? You know, what is driving you? What's your passion for the European project? Now, we also want to hear about what contribution will you make. It's not just you taking from the college, but if you're selected to go to the college as a student, what contribution will you make to student life in the college? This is really important for us. So if you're a very quiet person, leave your quietness at the door, in the sense that we want to see how will you contribute to the student body, because we want to make sure that we send students from Ireland who are going to leave their mark at the college, and we want to send students who are not just going to lock themselves in their room studying on their own, but also are going to be part of the wider student community that the Rector has spoken about. This is really important, you know, when we're looking at candidates. So fill out the form, the application form, put thought into it, and also put thought into your interview. Now, when it comes to the interview, one of the things that we've noticed in recent years is that sometimes, for example, a law student, you might be very familiar with the internal market policies of the EU, but you mightn't be very familiar with the institutions of the EU. Now you have to be. You have to be. So I know the way that modules are semesterized in universities now, that you can study subjects in chunks or discrete slices or bite-sized chunks, but you've got to go beyond what you did in university, because at the interview, the professors and the other members of the panel at the interview may well ask you questions about, for example, we've just heard there about European defense policy. We'll want you to address that if that comes up, even though you may never have studied anything about it in college. So you need to be well up on EU affairs. So you need to keep up with the news. You need to keep up with current affairs. You need to be somebody who is interested in Europe in the widest sense, not just in your own narrow area. So be prepared to discuss current affairs or maybe the development of Europe over the last 10 years, or maybe where is Europe going to go in the next 10 years, for example. I'll just give you a typical hypothetical example. Young people, many of them are unemployed now with the COVID pandemic. How can Europe help them over the next 5 years? Because things are going to be tough economically. Does Europe have policies to deal with this? Can the institutions cater for it? These are the kinds of things we want to hear your views on. So be prepared to discuss a wide range of matters in the interview. Remember, it's only 20 minutes, so it'll go quickly, and make sure that you have something to say and be prepared to defend your views. Last thing I will say is, two last things. Get onto your referees, your lecturers. Make sure they get your references in on time, because they're an important part of the application process when your application is being considered in the college. And also make sure that you have got your French certification in order, etc. And just one thing to mention, I don't think it's been mentioned this evening, but while the Irish government allocates 3 scholarships a year, and note that in recent years we've been splitting those scholarships because often candidates have been so tied neck and neck that we've managed to get more students out with some financial assistance. There are also a number of other scholarships that the college itself offers. So, for example, in the Natolin campus, there is the Garamick scholarship, which I think is for people who are interested in European history. I'm open to correction on that. And also there are ENP scholarships for people who are interested in the European neighbourhood policy. And we have some students who have got to the Natolin campus by those routes with the assistance of those scholarships. So there are many ways to crack this nut. Make sure you're prepared for the interview, and make sure that you have widely read up on the EU, its policies, and its institutions, and be prepared to defend your views. And don't assume that we want to hear Euro-friendly views. I can recall in the last 2 or 3 years of interviews, we've had students who've been very critical of the European Union, and they got a very fair shake. Some of them have gone to the college, actually, simply because they had thought through their positions and were well able to defend them and articulate them in the interviews, and the panel were very impressed by them. So you don't have to be a Europhile to get to the College of Europe. We are interested in sending the people who are most talented and who have something interesting to say and will make a good contribution to life in the college. Thank you.
Fantastic, Dermot. Thank you so much for that. And Dermot's top tips to all you potential applicants who are online. I think it's fair to say the beer and the chocolate are going down well. We'd over 150 and people logged on at the start, and not too many have dropped off. So fantastic. Thank you for that, Dermot. And if I could just, a big thank you to Dermot and all the selection committee members, because ladies and gentlemen, to those of you who have had the privilege of attending the college, a huge amount of work goes into the application process, the scholarships, the interviews, and that's not possible without the hard work and the input of Dermot and all his colleagues on the National Selection Committee, both present and past, and it's an incredible commitment on their behalf. And if I may thank them on behalf of all of us in European Movement Ireland, the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Department of Education for their work, and for their work that they do on behalf of the college, it's fair to say. And I'm going to keep going, if I may, because I don't see the Rector has disappeared yet. Another question has come in, if I may, Rector, for you, from one of our former colleagues, Nora Trench-Bowles, who was for many years managed the College of Europe process. So I have to ask Nora's question to you, which is a fantastic one. And she's wondering, do you see any parallels between the College of Europe student alumni networks as Rector of the college and the EEAS networks from your time as High Representatives? Could greater links be made between this kind of soft and hard diplomacy?
Great question indeed. Happy to reply to that, even if unfortunately in a few minutes I will have to go because my day is not finished yet. I'm finding out that being a rector is a little bit like being a mayor of a small community. You have constantly something to look at. I think that indeed there are links, there are similarities, there are synergies, I would say. I think this is the key word to be created. And one of the things I would would really like to do, and this is why I was so happy to accept your invitation for tonight, is to promote as much as possible this this power of networking that we have. I think we are underutilizing this as the college, but also with other networks, and I think this is really the added value of what we have. Not only the experience and such, but also the network afterwards. I give you an example. I think that this is something we're trying to do with the Alumni Association, because there is an Alumni Association that, well, there are national branches, but there's also a central one somehow that gathers all alumni that want to join. We're thinking of starting having sort of thematic sub-networks of alumni that are in one specific institution or are in one specific field of action. The EES, the Commission, the Council, the Parliament, national ministries, to connect alumni that maybe are not from the same promotion, so not necessarily know each other, but are working in similar institutions, so that we can use at full the knowledge and the experience and the contacts of the alumni. So somehow moving from the social aspect, which is and remains important, to also something that is very valuable for professional careers, but also for projects that can be run together. So definitely this is an element that I would love to develop more, and connecting dots somehow between and among networks that are already existing or creating new ones.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, any support that we can give you in that regard, we'd be delighted to, Rector. And I think our host for this evening would like to wrap up and say a very short, brief words. So Pierre-Emmanuel, will I turn to you if you'd like to say a few?
Yes, sure. Well, thank you very much, Noelle. Just a brief word of thanks to all the attendees this evening. A special thank to European Movement Ireland, Noelle, Lisa, and all the team, to Rector Mogherini for her wonderful words, to colleague Anna, Cormac, and Irene. Actually, all your stories about the College of Europe in Bruges and Natolin were personal stories, and they're very important to me. They have a particular resonance. Why is that? Well, I myself didn't study in Bruges or Natolin. One of my sisters did. She graduated from the College of Europe in Bruges in the late 80s. And my father served as a civil servant in the first European Commission. And he had his whole career in the Commission. So the European project is really very, very important for me and close to my heart. And I was particularly happy to hear Rector Mogherini saying that when you study in the College of Europe, you are actually shaping and building the future of Europe. And that's very important. So I'm happy that this evening together, we have been contributing actively to shaping the future of Europe. And I'm really happy to see many, many applicants for the College of Europe. And I encourage all of you to keeping faith in our European integration. Thank you all very much and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you very much. I think I have nothing more to add to what Pierre-Emmanuel has just said. I can echo his words and say that it was a fantastic evening for me, very emotional, and I would really be very happy to be part of this big College of Europe Irish family, and you can count on me. I hope next year we will organize a very nice evening together with Pierre-Emmanuel, either in his beautiful residence or in my beautiful residence. It's just the same street, Aylesbury Road, and you feel you can feel already invited. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Anna and Pierre-Emmanuel. What you've done my wrap up and my summary, I think it's fair to say. So all it brings me leaves me to do is to just thank especially the Rector, our very kind hosts, the ambassadors, to all of you for our sold out College of Europe alumni evening this evening. It was fantastic to have so many of you with us. And if I could pay special tribute and thanks to our own incredibly hardworking European Movement Ireland team, both past and present, who have been involved in the College of Europe process for many years. And particular thanks to Lisa, Aoife and Kieran for this evening. And finally, I think it's fair to say, what is it? We're in December, we're getting near to Christmas. We're looking forward to, please God, a more positive and hopeful 2021. So if I can wish you all, your loved ones, all your families and those near and dear to you, a very happy and a very safe Christmas. And we look forward to seeing you perhaps physically at some stage in 2021. Thank you again to the Rector for taking the time to present to us this evening. I really enjoyed it. It was a tremendous honour for me to try and moderate it. I am now going to enjoy Pierre-Emmanuel's very kind gift, and I will toast you all in your honour. Thank you very much. Take care. Slán Abhaile.